Welcome to Brain Wealth with Bryan Repple from Repple Wealth Group. Join us on a transformative journey where we explore the powerful connection between mindset, financial success, and cutting-edge biohacking. Gain actionable insights from Bryan and his guest experts in psychology, finance, and personal development as they examine the world of biohacking to supercharge your mental and physical well-being. Whether you're an entrepreneur, financial enthusiast, or simply eager to enhance your health and mindset, let this podcast be your guide to holistic abundance. Now, let's get ready to unlock your brain wealth.
Hello, welcome to the Brain Wealth Podcast with your host, Bryan Repple. Bryan, I can't wait to hear what you've got in store for us today. What's up? How you doing?
Hey, Bill, doing wonderful. Yeah, we have a great guest on today's show. You know, Adam is a uniquely different individual. And I say that with integrity. You're going to hear a speaker that truly speaks with passion, conviction, and maybe a little intensity at times. But the best part is, Bill, he speaks from his heart and he wears it on his sleeve. So I think we're going to have a great show with our guest today, Adam Duncan.
Thank you guys for having me.
No, absolutely. Glad you're here. You know, Adam and I got introduced about a little bit over a year ago. Let me just share something about him. So just give a little background on Adam here, and we'll get into some of his, I love his stories, and he's got covers everything what we try to embrace here at Brain Wealth. He's an entrepreneur. He's a visionary. I love his bio here because the way he just frames things out is just as a way of writing of driven by divine mission to empower individuals to unlock their full potential and live purposefully. He's rooted in a vision of faith, purpose, and unwavering commitment. And through that, he has his ACTVAT8 system, which is a pathway designed with divine guidance from God. He's a father of 2 children, a husband, a former athlete, now a strength coach. But as cool as that is, it's really what his ACTVAT8 system does. And it's the journey of wealth, mindset, health, and ultimately leaving a legacy of purpose and values. So everything what we speak here on Brain Wealth, Adam is already doing that, living that in his life, and touching a lot of people. So Adam, glad to have you here. And let's kind of talk about how we met. Adam is actually a client, full disclosure, and it's our first client on the show. So Adam, let's start there, how we met, and then we'll kind of go back on the journey of you, kind of share how we came about getting connected.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys again for having me. So Bryan and I got introduced from my CPA. Her name's Courtney Epps, and we had been talking and strategizing, doing our tax strategy. And I got to talking to her about the infinite banking concept I had been reading about. I had read Nelson Nash's book and done some other research and had been hearing about it a lot. And as somebody that believes wholeheartedly in education, as soon as I mentioned it to her, she was just like, "You need to talk to my guy, Bryan." And I said, "Well, give me Bryan's number." And I gave him a call a couple of days later. And I think the first call, I think we might have stayed on the phone for like 2 hours of a 1 hour consultation because we were just having such a great conversation. And I feel like every time, Bryan and I get on the phone, it's just great conversation and it's education. And, I learned so much from him. And I hope that I provide a little bit of value. But yeah, so that's how.
Adam, let me ask you this. What were you seeking? Because one of the things I really love about our conversations is it's just not like intellectually, hey, I'm smart and I pick up things. You truly are a student and a learner of knowledge. And then more importantly, you apply things, which gives you that wisdom part. You learn how to execute and apply things. What were you seeking in reading the book, and what were you going after? What was your kind of your mindset there?
Kind of what Nelson talks about is like the problem that we have in this country is that people have handed their money over to outside money managers. And so I was looking for a way to maintain, like we've talked about before, liquidity, usage, and control of my own capital. As a business owner, I don't want to lock my money away to where I can't get access to that money until I'm 59 or 60 years old. As a business owner, like you never know what things are going to come up and you need money to expand. And so I wanted a way to basically create an alternative warehouse for my money and be able to maintain the tax advantages and have the, like we said, the liquidity, usage, and control of the money. So I started searching out, like, how do I maintain control? And, something that I had heard about so often was, like, they call compounding interest the eighth wonder of the world. And I was just like, well, if that's true, then the markets are not believing this, because markets come up and they go down, they come up and they go down. And every time that it goes down, it's destroying all the capital from years of gains. And so that was something that Nelson and you, Bryan, pointed out to me, was it's not compounding interest, it's uninterrupted compounding interest. It's the ability to put your money in a policy and be able to tuck that away, and it's protected. But at the same time, that money is going to continue to gain, even if it's 5%, it's going to gain 5%, 5%, 5%. And then I can pull policy loans against that money, never having to pay the taxes on that money. And then I can take that. And what we talk about is like investing. Like, I don't believe in just like investing in, a bunch of different mutual funds, because like that's diversification, but yes, put, a portion of your money there. But then when you're in the market, being in the market and going directly into, whether it be utilities or mining or whatever the case may be, like, I like resources personally. So I look at the mining companies, I look at utility companies, energy, any type of energy and natural resources, and just being able to take that money and apply it directly into a company so that I can be a part of the gain and not just a small part of the gain.
Yeah, it's one of the lines I shared with you a long time ago, was out of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Rich Dad is Keith Cunningham of the book by Robert Kiyosaki. And one of Keith's line is, he says, the wealthiest people are the ones with the most choices. Mm-hmm. So what this provided you with was choices of your money. You had flexibility to do things wherever it may go, mm-hmm. but you have those choices available versus being tied into a government system like a 401k or an IRA, where limitations are placed on those, constraints are placed around that money and mm-hmm. the choices you have available.
Right.
And I think you were seeking freedom, knowing you and your background, you were seeking, how do I gain more control and have freedom of my money and my resources?
That, and not only that, but how do I plan for, a legacy? Because, in the Bible, he talks about, a good man leaves wealth and riches for his children. And I didn't want to leave my children broken with nothing. And so that is,
let's pivot into that. Why was that important to you?
Because my mother was diagnosed with stage 4 cervical cancer my senior year of college. And my mother, like I've told you before, like, we grew up, she was a single woman. She raised 2 boys. And I think that the most that my mom might have made up until I was probably like 19 years old might have been like $40,000 a year. And whenever she passed away, it wasn't like she left us some huge sum of money. It wasn't like we were being, raised with a silver spoon in our mouths. Like, hard work, like blue collar work ethic, was a currency in our household. Like, she taught us how to squeeze blood from a penny and how to balance a checkbook, but she didn't teach us about investment. She didn't teach us about how to protect money or how to protect assets, or what even asset was. And so for me, once she passed away at 27, I was sitting there and I was just like, well, like, what do I do? Like, I don't know anything about money. I have no idea what to do for the future. And I just kind of got this overwhelming sense of like, no one's coming to save you. And I was sitting there and I opened my Bible, and it was Jeremiah 29:11. And it was, know that the plans that I have for you, plans for a future and plans to prosper. And I know that that's not verbatim, but that was the verse that I opened to. And I just kind of like, said, you know what, I'm surrendering this. I'm surrendering my life to you. I want you to be a part of this. I want you to guide me and teach me. And so from then on, I've looked at it like I've been fathered by him. He has taught me how to invest my money, how to steward my money, how to diversify, the different things, because like, that's biblically, like, he teaches us about stewardship, diversification, providing for others through charity, and then preservation of wealth. And, if you even go into it, like we've talked about, like, I came up with this, like, I just kind of kept hearing this like voice just telling me arc. And it wasn't build an ark like Noah. Noah was conspiracy theorist until it started raining, but it wasn't that type of ark. It just kept coming back to his assets, real estate, and commodities. And for me, it was understanding what an asset was. It's something that puts money into your pocket. It's it's a business, it's equity in a company. It's being able to buy something and it pay you a dividend, or you be able to write a stock option against it or whatever. And I just started learning those things and then trying to acquire more knowledge. And then the more knowledge that you acquire, the more that you try to apply it. And everybody complains and they talk about what the rich have and that the rich are this and the rich are that. And I said, dude, we all play by the same rules. And that was something that Courtney really taught me, was that there's only two tax codes. There's W-2 and there's 1099. And you get to play the same game that those people do. You get to use the same tax advantages that those rich people do. It's just that you have to be willing to start on a small scale. And you can start from that small scale, and then you just keep on building, keep on building, keep on building. And I said, you know what? Like, you have to be willing to start. You've got to be willing to take that first step. And for me,
well, you had to, not only the first step, and I think this is where you're great at it, is you have to put energy and attention to it. Study, learn, have conversations that may feel uncomfortable at first because you have lack of knowledge, lack of confidence, lack of maybe resources. But
right.
It's the attention and that's what I love what you've done, because you and I've talked about this. Like, you're going to have two versions of you. You have the version that you're showing up of all the decisions you've made today and the version that you're going to get in the future.
Yep.
And you coming from the health space, you see the people that don't put attention to their health, or they go and do it and they get injured, and then what they look like in the future. And what I enjoy about our conversation is that you put attention in a lot of different areas. It is your mindset, it's your spirituality, your relationship with God. It is your health. It's the impact you have on the people you're working with in the strength and conditioning and the athletes. And then it's the money side. It's just not money for you. It's you're not just reading something saying, hey, family, this is what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. But this is because I'm kind of laying the foundation for what the Activate8 system is about. And I love it because it covers those principles that you wear on your sleeve. So why don't we go, share what those are, what the Activate8 is about.
So I look at everything, like as a former athlete and as a strength coach, we train in phases, right? Like we have off season, you have preseason, you have in season, or what they would call regular season, and then you have postseason. And everybody's playing for the postseason. And for me, that's where whenever you are in off season mode, you are with your coaches, you are with your trainers, you are with specific individuals that are for you making yourself better. And you have to start off with goals, right? Like you have to have goals. You have to plan ahead. You have to do the things. You have to see, like we talked about that self in 20 years, but they'll see yourself in 20 weeks, right? Because most of these athletes get about, 15 to 20 weeks of off season. And so it's, in 20 weeks, how am I going to show up to preseason? Who do I want to be? Do I want to be 10 pounds heavier? Do I need to be 10 pounds lighter? Do I want to be more mobile and more stable? Do I want to create more power this year? So you have to have goals that you're working toward, and you have to get with the people and build a team around you that can help you get there, the people that are wiser than you. And, for me, that part of activating you or the off season is, awareness, confrontation, tribulation, vulnerability, and the infinite principle. And it's the awareness, right? Like in anything, you have to be aware that there's a problem. You have to be aware of what you want. So that's your goals. You have to confront, the blind spot. So there has to be a place of confrontation. Confrontation is not a bad thing. So you have to confront your blind spots, your weaknesses, and try to make those strengths, as well as building on top of those strengths. You've got to go through your trials and tribulations, just like you're going through the phases of your strength sessions. Over the course of 20 weeks, you're going to go through several phases. You're going to go through basically a foundational phase where it's general prep, where you're focusing on correctives and alignment, making sure that you're just laying a foundation of strength so that you can move into hypertrophy, you can move into max phases, speed strength, or explosive phases. And by the time you're done with your 20 weeks, you will have moved through all of those seasons.
And what's the fourth season?
Which one on the
you had awareness, confrontation,
tribulation, and vulnerability. And so vulnerability is where, like I said, you got to have a team around you. So you have to be willing to go and find the people that are more knowledgeable than you. You know, I think ego gets in the way of a lot of people, and it keeps us from asking for help.
Well, you know what ego stands for, right?
What is it?
Edging God out.
Oh man, I haven't heard that one, but I love it.
That's all that we're doing is it's more I versus him. We're just edging
Absolutely.
God out. And the reason why thank you for sharing the 4 things, because I believe I love those. You shared them with me before. And what I gather for the seasons, we have seasons in life. This isn't just about for an athlete going through those seasons, off season, on season, post season. We all have seasons in life. And within those seasons, we have to all gain awareness. Where are we on our health? Where are we with our money? Where are we with our relationships? And then confront those things, confront ourselves with them on our own personal journey. And then out of that, lay the foundation, reset, and then create vulnerability. Be authentic. Who do we need on our team? Who do we need to surround ourselves by? So
Absolutely.
I think there's so many things that what you're teaching applies just not on the health side for an athlete or strength conditioning, but applies to so many different elements of our life, aspects of that we can be, that everyone here can use.
And that's it. You know, I think that in not only the 4 seasons, but I kind of look at it like 4 battlefields that everybody faces on a daily basis. We don't fight these battles. We don't fight these seasons, you know, and separation. I think a lot of them happen all at one time, because it's, you know, we are constantly being bombarded mentally. We're constantly being bombarded physically. Our finances, there's a war against our finances and investments, and being able to try and protect those. And then our legacy, they're trying to take our families and try to create division in the families with just everything that's going on in the world. And that's where, like, you know, once people have gone through that awareness phase and gotten into an alignment of what their mission is, that's kind of where you start working in from a seasons of life standpoint. You start moving into health. Like once you've figured out you and you understand what you need to work on, now you can start getting to work, right? And that's part of that confrontation, but it's getting to work on moving your body, eating healthy, taking those daily actions. And just like an athlete.
Well, let's talk about those daily actions. Come on, because you're hitting on a lot of so many little subjects that we could have great depth conversations on. And I want to make sure people hear it, because I want to hear from you, because I love hearing from, I think everyone can hear the education, the awareness. And if you met Adam, the self-control the man has and the impact he's having on people's lives. What are some things that you personally do for daily habits? Because I always say, I look at the difference between the people that are successful and those that aren't. We all are kind of, like Courtney said, we're all starting on the same platform. We're breathing, we're living, blood's running through us. But it's the habits and the patterns that we create that start to build our success, that allow us to begin to just elevate and separate from those that don't have, or they have weaker patterns, or they have weaker habits that are stopping them from their success. What are some things that you found in your life? Maybe one that you had to break just to show vulnerability of saying, hey, I had to change this pattern to create this new one to get to me to something, because it's easy to say, oh, I do this, this, and this. And everybody loves that. Hey, we do cold plunges, we do this, but it wasn't always that way. I had to break something. I had to go to bed earlier to allow, like I'm starting to go to bed at 10 o'clock now. I'm being challenged. I used to be 11 to 12 o'clock phone on. And I'm like, you know, one of the patterns was 48 said, Bryan, I would love to see you start going to bed by 10 o'clock. Like, geez, all right, let me try that out. And I'm doing it and my day has shifted. So I didn't like it at first. It's like 10 o'clock, but I'm noticing my different things in my body are responding to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, good. So what are some things, maybe a pattern that was not serving you that you had to shift to serve you? What are some great things that you can give tips on that you teach some of your men or women in strength conditioning patterns?
Yeah. Well, I mean, anytime you can start confronting things, you know, you're going to go through those tribulations, right? Like our body's going to start screaming against us. And I think for me, like, I'm like you, Bryan, like I was very much a night owl. Like I used to work night shift, and whenever I was younger, and I just kind of like stuck with me. And my wife and I, whenever we met, we were both on night shift, because I was doing private security at that time before I got in like full time into training. And I just had this night owl mentality. And so sleeping was one thing that I had to start doing on a regular basis, but feeding my mind and not just like I was a verse that I read in Matthew, and he talks about that the eyes are the windows to the soul. And I started recognizing it's not just the eyes, it's the eyes and the ears. It's the things that you listen to, it's the things that you see, it's what you're watching and listening to, and the people that you're surrounding yourself. So it's this environment. And so
Beautiful.
for me is I had to start creating a better environment for myself. I didn't grow up in a great area. There were some good people around, but if anything, if I can learn from anything, is that I don't always put myself in the best situations whenever I was younger, and I had to learn from that. And I had to start distancing myself from friends that I thought were friends. I had to start putting space there. I had to start feeding my mind with quality stuff. I had to start reading books and educating myself, because I was not a reader in high school. Like, I'm pretty sure I graduated with below a 2.0 GPA. The only thing that got me into college was my athletic ability, and I got scholarships wherever I went. So
yeah, but what's beautiful about that is what was there did not define to what you're showing up today. And I think that's so important for people, no matter where you are in your journey. It's those four: the awareness, confrontation, knowing that these are seasons, and then let's get vulnerable.
Yeah. I think
and you went
John
into
Wooden
proactive steps to grow out of that.
Yeah, I think John Wooden said it best. He said, adversity is the state in which man most easily becomes acquainted with himself. And that was where I was at. I was in this season of just turbulence, especially once my mom passed away. Like, I just didn't know what to do. I had no anchor. I had she was my world, at that point. And so I had nowhere to anchor. And I was kind of like that ship at sea and just in the middle of it. And it was where God came and met me. And I think that's one of the things that I think that I could tell anybody is, he came and he died for us for a reason. He paid the debt for all the things that we have done. So wherever you are is not where you have to stay. You're not a tree, you can move. And so that was a big thing for me as far as a mindset shift was, okay, this is what I have done. This is where I was, but that is not where I'm going. That's not who I am. That's not who he calls me to be. And that was where I started inviting him into my business, because that was something that I had heard. I believe I heard Ed Milet say it, where like most people check God at the door. And I was like, wow, that's pretty powerful. Like, because it's true. We talked about ego, right? Like, whenever we become experts, we become these egocentric people. Like, I'm the expert. I know what I'm talking about. And it's edging God out. And rather than understanding that he put that passion in my heart, he put that purpose to me. And so I was perfectly drawn up, and I was purposed with a mission in my heart. And that's, for me, is being able to know, like I said before, is that wherever you were is not where you have to stay. You can move toward him, but you have to start taking steps toward him and have to ask him, where are you leading me? What is my purpose? What will you do? Like, how would you have me serve your kingdom?
Beautiful.
And that's what I started doing. Was in the weight room, I found that mission, and I started just trying to meet kids where they were, because I didn't have a lot of coaches that.
I want to make sure everybody hears that, because that was an act of service. You were trying to meet kids where they were, not on your place, not where you hang out, or where were the kids that you can have an impact on and you can serve them.
Yeah.
And I always find that, because that can be glanced over real quick, what you just said right there. But you were there to serve them, and that helped grow your business too, because you're impacting them and giving value to things that they're looking for leadership in. Yeah,
I think a lot of times, especially in this day and age, coaches are about themselves. They want wins on their record column. They don't really care about the athlete. And I've had a handful of coaches that did care about the athlete. And I think those coaches were the most successful ones. I mean, you've seen just since the NIL stuff started happening, I mean, you got one of the best coaches in college football that has left now, because he knows that, like, he can't compete with them. Like, he's not going to compete with the money. He's there to.
He's competing, right? He's competing against money now, right?
Right, and that's what it is. It's like, oh, you don't want to pay me and you don't want to play me, I'll go somewhere else. And I was just talking about this with some clients last night. Like, March Madness is getting ready to come up. And like part of the thing that used to be cool about that was like you got to see these guys go in as freshmen. And then by their junior year, they had grown together. They had bought into their coach's system, and he was there to develop young men, not only as young men, but he was there to develop them as professionals as well. And so you got to watch this progression over the course of a couple of years. And you can't see that anymore because, again, it's, oh, you don't want to pay me, or I'm not getting enough playing time, or I'm not getting this deal, or I'm not getting this money, so I'm just going to go somewhere else. And that's frustrating. Like as a fan of college sports and as a fan of athlete, I love athletes. I was an athlete, but I can see how it's really changing the game, and it's not for the better. It's making athletes very selfish, and it's taking the equation of really great coaches like a Nick Saban out of the equation. Like,
well, and that's kind of the world we live in right now. It's more selfishness, more about me, versus I think where I really enjoy what you're doing in this space of teaching principles, mindset, legacy, money, wealth to young athletes. So they are getting a foundation as they approach that next, let's call it season of life. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I was reading this morning, I love a quote by Jim Rohn, and you just said it was one, we are not trees. We can move. So it doesn't matter what situation you're in or where you are in life, what season, you can move. And two, you said it without saying it, but Jim Rohn says, one of the greatest arts is learning to stand guard at the gate of your mind.
Yes.
And one of the habits that you changed, and I'm just going to repeat it because I want to make sure it's heard, is the content you were reading, the stuff you were listening to, the people you're around, what you were consuming into the mind was helping. If you think about what television is tell a vision.
Yeah.
Most people are consuming someone else's vision through television. They want to be consumed, and they call television programming for a reason. Yeah. We're watching something to be programmed in life. And that's why I enjoy actually these podcasts, because we get to have other people tell a vision. Mm-hmm. You're getting to tell your vision of what Activate8 is, what you're doing in people's lives versus just being programmed by the television.
Right. And that's something like I don't do in my weight room is I do not listen to like crap music. Like there's like your kids are, whenever they come into the weight room, and even athletes, when they come into the weight room, like I've got Christian rappers playing. Like these guys have never even heard these rappers. They're like, who is this? And they're like, this is a really dope song. And I'm like, yeah, like it doesn't have to be trash talking about, money and drugs and talking derogatory of women. Like, that's really something that changed. I think having a daughter, it was what kind of
that changed when you changed your business around of letting God in your business.
Yes, 100%.
That was a hey, if I'm gonna let him in, I gotta let him in.
Yeah, I gotta let him have it.
And that's where, as I say, you wear these convictions on your sleeve.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm unashamed of the gospel. Like that's something like I've lost friends, I've lost clients, no big deal. I don't care. Like I'm going to love you. I'm going to pray for you. You might not believe what I believe, but it's not my job to judge. It's not my job to tell you and shove this stuff down your throat. It's just my job to meet you where you are. And that's something that I always tell people, that the least between us and God and the least that we have between our families and our friends is we're supposed to love, encourage, advocate, support, and empower. And that is, the least agreement.
Like I say, it's a lease.
Yes, it is, because none of us are getting out of here alive, bro. Our finish line is 10 toes up and 6 feet down. Like, and I just hope, like, I know that this place is not my home, and I hope that I see you in the next life, but it's not my job to judge. And like, I think one of my greatest fears is that whenever I get to the gates of heaven, he said, like, I hope he says, well done, my good and faithful servant. The worst thing that he could say to me is, depart from me, I never knew you. And I will not run a business, and I will not, be lukewarm. I'm unashamed, and I will forever be that way. And, it's just like you said, you have to invite him in, and it can't be on my terms or your terms. It has to be on his terms, and you give that up to him fully. And that was, what I got from hearing Milet say that time was, you can't check him at the door. You got to invite him in all the way. And he's going to bless your life. He's going to bless your business when you do that, because he's going to bring the people to you that are hurting. He's going to bring the people to you that need you, whether it be, mentally or physically, whether it be, emotionally, whether it be somebody that doesn't understand how to eat. And Maya Angelou said it best when she said, you can only do what you can do. You can do the best you can with what you have, but when you know better, do better. And that's where like the application comes in, right? Like you can only do what you can do for so long, but eventually better. Like if I sit here and I keep nicking my foot because I'm missing the stroke, I'm eventually going to make sure that my stroke is precise and I'm not going to hit my foot again, like with the hammer or my thumb with the hammer. It's learning from your mistakes. And I think that's a huge shift that I learned later in life because I hated losing. But, I heard Kobe say, it's not wins and losses, it's wins and lessons. And how do I apply this to the next time that we meet? And I'm going to beat you that time. And if I don't beat you that time, I'm going to win another lesson, and I'm going to keep on applying those things until I do beat you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Adam. There's so many great, golden nuggets that I know have been, there's so many things that have been spoken that we could just continue to unpack because there's just lessons within lessons that we've just, and we really didn't get deep into the money part because I really wanted to hear, we're coming up, maybe got about 5 more minutes, but if you can share, I love the story you shared about when you were at church, and within the church, there was someone presenting on money concepts. And one of the people you do not want in your crowd is someone that's educated and knows more than you on money. And that's Adam. Why don't you share real quick about what the topic was and some of the things that you, I would say, lovingly confronted?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, most churches have let, the wolves in, and, they let the wolves in and they come in wearing sheep's clothing, and they run, presentations, and they run these financial peace universities and good stewardship projects. And they tell you to, that you should never buy whole life policies and blah, blah. And then they tell you that then they proceed to take that whole life policy and they apply that and portray it against the S&P 500 or whatever the case may be. And it's comparing apples to oranges. Like, again, these guys will come in, they'll tell you, they'll teach you the banker's rule, the rule of 72. This is how long it takes for your money to double. And they teach you the debt elimination and the debt stacking. And these are all tools that they should be taught. That's all well and good. But the words never and always and things like that, like those are just dogmatic terms.
How about lately? Trust me.
Yeah. And I just don't believe in that whole buy term and invest the difference. Again, like my job as a good steward of my money is to protect my capital and to protect my investments. And so if I'm putting my hard-earned dollars into the market, knowing, they tell you the dollar cost average in and all that stuff, like that's putting money in, knowing that the market does this. And not only that, they'll go back and they'll show you, oh, well, historically over 100 years, the market has returned 8%. And I'm like, well, no, it hasn't. It might have returned, but your money has not compounded at 8%. Because as we talked about earlier, it's uninterrupted compounding interest that is the eighth wonder of the world. And so, I had a guy tell me that over the last 100 years, it's gone down, it went down here, but then it's gone up, 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 up. And I'm like, yeah, but do you understand that if you had put your money in here and then it had gone up to here and then it dropped that much, understand it took 22 years to get back to even. And then it went up for a couple more years and then it dropped again. And so every time that there's a drop, that is losing capital. That is lost capital. That is years of compounding interest that are absolutely destroyed. And so that was where Nelson Nash's mindset and like lessons really took over for me. Was it's uninterrupted compounding interest, putting your money away, making sure that it can continue to grow. And then why don't people want it? Why doesn't the government want you to know about it? It's because they can't tax it.
Yeah.
And that's, I always tell people, like, whenever it comes to 401ks and IRAs or any type of government incentivized programs, always be alert. That's something that Jesus tells us in the Bible multiple times. Be alert, be aware. And he told us that the wolves will come in sheep's clothing. And, that was the conversation that we got into. And I try to explain to him, like, hey man, look, I don't believe in this stuff, and I'm going to push back on this. Every time you tell these people they should never do this and never do that, I'm going to push back because I don't believe that. Like, you need
They're
to.
very strong. They're very strong, polarizing words without context or content,
right?
Or knowing the individual's situation,
backstory, right? Like, you have to meet people where they are. Like, you have to know, well, if somebody's 60 years old, well, okay, well, their money has been in the market. It's very unlikely that they would even benefit from using something like an infinite banking concept unless they wanted to, like we talk about, preserve a legacy and pass some money on to their children, and do it in a way where you're going to avoid probate and everything else, and set your kids up for a good future.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Adam. So one of the lines out of Becoming Your Own Banker is, who's the biggest thief in the world? And Nelson says, if you answered the Internal Revenue Service, you're correct. Yeah. So maybe it's just having additional choices, who you partner your money with, and thinking through all that. So Adam, I really appreciate it. Let me ask you this. What is a website, if anybody want to get a hold of you, contact, because you're you're a wealth of knowledge, and just your health side, the strength conditioning. And I know there are parents out there that have kids that they want to reach out and connect with you. How would they get in touch with you?
I have my website. It's www.ACTV8-performance.com, and it's pronounced activate-performance.com. I'm on socials at Adam_Duncan23. And I try not to really be too present on social too much. As we talked about earlier, I'm a father and a husband. I work, 8 to 10 hours a day. And so whenever I get home, my job is to be father and be husband and make sure that I am teaching my children. Like we talked about before, my kids are 5 and 3, and their education starts with me. It doesn't start at the school. My kids they know what assets are. They know what liabilities are. And I tell them all the time, we are the Duncans, not the Duncants.
Isn't that great? They're the done cans versus the done can'ts. And I love that. Thank you, Adam, for sharing that, because that's one of the mindset tricks that we should all learn from, is being present. And that's what Adam is great at being, stepping in to be a leader of his family, a father, and just being present to his family. That's why he's not on social media. So reach out to him on the email, the website, and see if there's any opportunities to work together and learn from him. And Adam, thank you for being here and sharing your wealth of knowledge and always great lines that you have whenever we speak.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it, brother.
That was a great conversation, Bryan. Thank you very much. Adam, thanks for being here and speaking your truth. Appreciate it.
Yes,
really do.
Thank you.
So, Bryan, we know how to get a hold of Adam, activate-performance.com. How do we get a hold of you?
Yeah, Bill, appreciate it. Yeah, so www.repple, R-E-P-P-L-E, not Ripple, repplewealthgroup.com. You can go to the website, and we have the podcast. We have content available, and we're uploading some new information for some tax planning technology that we're just bringing on, where we can really do using some AI features to really scan through tax returns and try to find some gaps that you could be transferring wealth unknowingly, and more importantly, unnecessarily. So,
yeah, the idea is render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, not render unto Caesar everything you got. So
that's it.
Amen on that. Thanks so much, Bryan. Thank you, listeners, for taking the time to listen to the podcast today. If you're not a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button. It's easy. That way you won't miss another podcast. It will be notified every time Bryan issues a new episode. You'll be notified. You can listen to that. We would also ask that if you like what you hear, tell people about it. Spread the word about the podcast. In the meantime, I'm Bill Tucker on behalf of Bryan and everybody at Brain Wealth. Thank you for listening today. And I would remind you that you can go out today and make it a great day. Or not. You do have a choice. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Brain Wealth with Bryan Repple. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.repplewealthgroup.com. That's REPPLE wealthgroup.com. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Bryan Repple. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Bryan Repple is a registered representative and investment advisor for G.A. Repple & Company, member of FINRA SIPC.